Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. I have a beautiful guest with me today, as I always say, as all my guests are. But this is a very interesting guest, and even in the lead up to this, we were just saying before I hit record that it took a few goes to get us together on camera. Obviously, the timing had to be right, and yeah, both going through different things, and I've said it and again in previous episodes, but I just now feel a very strong calling to contact certain people, and it's the podcast is evolving into something very different, which I'm not sure yet, but I see it as a very sacred space that I have the opportunity to share space with very, very special, I'm going to start crying now, women who are here with a very, very brave, courageous mission. I feel that about everybody I meet. My gosh. No wonder I had to prepare before this. I had to release something yesterday or I'd be in floods. So, and this guest I know myself, I am just very, very grateful to be in her presence, very privileged to interview her. Her name is Soma ARah. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her, but she will take us through her own story, what she is doing now, what she is here to do in terms of her service for humanity, and how she can help you, the listener, should you feel so called to reach out to her. For some of you, this may be very familiar, what she will talk about. For some, it may not be. And that's just perfectly fine too. So please, I would suggest just stay tuned and listen, and to whatever it is that needs, whatever you need to hear, you will hear. I'm getting a lot of chills now as I say this. Um, but Soma is a Pleiadian and a Lyran starseed hybrid, and she has a profound mission to assist humanity during this era of ascension. She is known as a Pleiadian ambassador and warrior of the heart, and she has served as a channel for the Pleiadians since childhood, sharing their wisdom to inspire, uplift, and guide humanity towards higher frequencies and a new earth. Now, that makes my heart sing for sure. She's a healer, a visionary, an intuitive. Um, she has many roles, and again, she can talk to us about them. Being an ascension guide, and we can talk about ascension, and she can talk, maybe explain what that is for any of us or anyone listening who maybe is like, I'm going through something and the world is changing and it's crazy, but what's happening? And maybe just to give a bit of perspective around that, that is very supportive for everyone, for all of us on our path. She's also a psychic medium, a starseed reader, so she can offer profound insights through the Akashic records and multidimensional connections. She's a light worker, an empath, and she shares healing energy as a Reiki master, a shamanic practitioner, and channel for divine light. What is really struck me when I was reading about her was that her spiritual journey began at the age of 8. I was like, oh my God, when she had a conscious connection with the Pleiadians. So I think what I might do, Soma, as I introduce you, is maybe start there. Because to hear that your spiritual journey began at 8 is wow. That is something. Welcome, firstly, to the podcast. So grateful you're here.
Thank you, Celine. I think that our connection has uh, is very deep, actually, and I hadn't really realized that before today. I mean, I had realized that we have a connection because these days I rarely connect in with people that I don't have a connection with. But sometimes during these podcasts, I connect with people that, and I'm feeling it in the sense now that I just want to cry, and I'm not sure why, but I have that feeling. And I think it's a lot to do with ancestral and the Irish connection. What a lovely introduction. Thank you. Yes, I'm 51 now, and my journey began as a child when I was 8. I was born into a very dysfunctional family. Mum was Irish and she's in the spirit world now, but there was a lot of dysfunction. There was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, a lot of lack of money, abundance. We really were very poor. And I went underfed and undernourished because of that, or partly, hugely because of that. I feel my mum also, looking back, would have had other problems as well, where she wasn't able to cope very well with her life and the kids and the husband, and when she was married. But there was a lot of dysfunction, a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse. I was abused by several different men, from when I was in the cot. And I only really consciously remember from the age of 8 or thereabouts. And I had a man laying on top of me, in London. I grew up in London, and I couldn't breathe, and I was a skinny little thing, nothing to me. The wind would have knocked me over. And he was a big guy, very heavy, overweight, and he stunk of whiskey. And I couldn't breathe, and I left my body and connected to the Pleiadians. I didn't know who they were at the time. I had no idea. I just knew that they were loving, and I knew that I guess I knew that they weren't real people, in the sense that they weren't, they weren't in the corridor. I had actually left my body, so I knew I was connecting to something higher, but I was never able to, at that age, I was never able to articulate it or put it into any kind of context. I just knew that there was this energy that I was connecting to, at that time. And so then the rest of my childhood was very unusual. A lot of stuff happened. And now, looking back, I'm so grateful. It was such a huge training ground for me. There was so much that happened and went on, and the vast majority of it, I never spoke about it to my family or anyone. And there are some other experiences that I had as a child, but I might pause there. But one of them was when I was 12, and I left my body and met up with Jesus, and had another experience. But I might pause there, unless you want me to carry on.
Yeah, I think yeah, gosh, you said so much in that few minutes, Soma. Yeah, it really is. I just feel the pain of for that child, and it's really. I didn't expect that. I knew that you'd, from I've heard you share before, but I hadn't heard that, and it just seems. Does it take that level of abuse or darkness for someone like you as that age to connect? Was that sort of a way of almost saving you to bring you to that place? Was it sort of the catalyst, as awful as it was? How would you talk about that?
Hmm. So as I was saying, I was 8, and I had a man laying on top of me, and I left my body and connected to the Pleiadians, although I didn't know who they were at the time. And then I was literally gone for seconds. It wasn't even minutes. But I'm sure it was seconds. And then I came back, and
When you
the
say gone, sorry, Soma, when you say gone, do you mean like just literally you've no memory of it? It was like you blacked out in a sense.
no, I remember it.
Okay, okay.
Uh, I had forgotten it for a good number of years, until I began doing shamanic training with Paul O'Halloran, actually, in Galway. And then I began to have memories of having connected to the Pleiadians as a child. But I'd already started in 2009 consciously to channel them. So my story is a bit back to front, because I began to channel them in 2009 when I was living in Lewisburg in Mayo. And then I did shamanic courses and began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. So my story is back to front, but then also so I would have, again, I would have had a lot of abuse as a child, from the age of being in the cot right up until 16, when on my birthday, when I left home, because I was done with that, with everything. I was done. So I left when I was on my 16th birthday. But from the age of 12, things really changed for me. I was laying on my mattress because I didn't even have a bed. I had literally had a mattress on the floor. And I'd gone through a lot of abuse, trauma, rape. I was actually raped by my cousin, and became pregnant at the age of 12. And I was abused by my stepfather and several different men. My friend's dad, he was Italian. There was a guy called Bill that lived on the estate that was into photography, and he took me to be photographed in the Hackney Park. Victoria Park in Hackney, sorry. And which was very strange, because I think there was one man that was looking at him with a look in his eye, and I wasn't sure what the look meant, but I know now what the look was, because I was half naked. And I remember being on the stage, in the band stage in Victoria Park in broad daylight, half naked. I was 8 or 9. And he was taking photos of me, and then a man came by and was looking at him. And so there was teachers, there was neighbors, there was my stepfather, my cousin, my friend's dad, just several men coming at me all from everywhere. So I got to the point when I was 12 where I just wanted to leave. I was in so much emotional pain. I lay on my mattress, and I was just retching and sobbing. I just was done with the whole everything. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want to know anything. I didn't want to communicate. I wanted to be left alone, and I wanted to leave my body. I didn't want to be there anymore. I really was done. And it wasn't a cry for help, because I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want to be around anyone. I just wanted out. And I would lay on my mattress, and I was deciding on taking tablets, because I thought that's the easiest, quickest way. I really was done, you know.
Where was your mother in this, or did your mother know or get involved?
No, my mum had severe alcohol addiction, and she was in her own world. Um, she wasn't, she had the label of mum, but she wasn't looking after me at all. You know, she wasn't able, she couldn't cope with, she didn't cope very well with children, because she had a lot of ancestral and baggage and her own healing to do, which she never really did because of her addiction. So she had a lot of problems, not just the alcohol, but she used that as a numbing tool to numb everything. And yeah, God bless her. Yeah, no, there was, I mean, I had siblings. I had 2 brothers and a sister. My oldest brother, he is 20 years older than me, so I'm the youngest. So he was often married, and my brother and sister were doing their own thing. And so, but it was the same for them when we were growing up, because they were much closer in age. And they grew up in South Africa, where I was born, but then we moved to Ireland and then the UK. So there was no one really around. It was very kind of left to my own devices. I was a key latchkey door key kid. I didn't have my own key or anything, but I just used to be out if I wasn't at school. If I
And
wasn't
did
at,
teachers, or did you function in the sense of you went to school and you had like, would anyone have noticed this was going on or something was off with you, or did you manage to keep some sort of cover? Did anyone pick up on it?
I I managed to, in primary school, I managed to do that, but secondary school was another important aspect. But let me first
Yeah.
go, because it's important what you're asking me.
Mm.
But I fell through all the cracks. I fell through every single one. But I think it was designed that way. So I was laying on my mattress and I left my body again, just through having all the retching and crying and sobbing and wanting out. And then I went up to the corner of above the door. I left my body and went through a tunnel of white light, and met up with Jesus, or Jesus came to me and took me on a very long journey for about 3 or 4 hours. And he showed me my childhood, my story, my soul lessons, my karma. He showed me a lot of information about myself. And then when he understood that I got it, that I understood and I was okay with it, then he showed me the bigger picture for humanity. And when I came back, I was gone 3 or 4 hours. And when I came back, I was blissful, totally blissful. And I'd gone from being one extreme to the other in the space of 3 to 4 hours because of this experience. So I always knew it was real because of that, because of the huge transformative shift of emotions going from one to the other extreme.
Mm.
Totally blissful for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then that gradually ebbed away. And then after that experience, I know I never told anyone, not for a good 20, 25 years. After that experience, I would sit in my room from the age of 12 to 16 and I would meditate. I didn't know that's what it was called. I would get downloads and transmissions from the Pleiadians. I didn't know who they were. I just always thought of them as my guides. I always remembered a particular past life in Native America where I was with my spirit guide, many moons. So guides were familiar to me, and they often used to sing certain songs to me to let me know they were around. But anyway, so the age of 12 to 16, I would be in my room meditating, not knowing that that's what it was, and downloading and transmissions. I would also be reading all of the esoteric books from Hackney Wick Library. I went through the library, and Edgar Casey and Doris Stokes. I'd be reading those authors at that age and meditating and just alone in my room. It was my sacred sanctuary. No one could touch me there, more or less, although my stepfather did try. But then I started putting the wardrobe in front of the door. But there was a backlash to that, to me doing that, because then he started locking me in. So I couldn't even get out to use the toilet or to eat or to do anything. He was locking the bedroom door. But anyway, so that was how I spent my childhood, just very isolated. The school did contact my mum, and I made an effort to go, and which was an ordeal, because she wouldn't want to give me the school bus fare. There was 2 buses. It took me an hour to get from Hackney Wick. I'd have to go into I'd have to get 2 buses, and then I'd have to beg her for the bus fare and the school lunch money and all of that. And it was just such a hassle. And then the trips that I did make to do that, I got to the school gates, and I remember standing there, and for years I'd forgotten about it. But during the shamanic courses with Paul, they began to wake up some of my childhood memories, which were blocked. The brain blocks trauma because the mind isn't ready to deal with it. The person's not ready to cope with the things that have happened. So the brain blocks it as a safety mechanism. So that's what happened with me. And then during the healing, the shamanic courses and the training, I had a huge amount of clearing and healing that happened for me first before I could teach any of the trainings or anything like that. So the memory of the school gates came back, where the Pleiadians had actually held me in a vortex of energy, which they've done several times over my lifetime, to stop me. One of them was to stop me having a car accident. So this energy is always a very safety mechanism. It's a safety switch that goes on if I'm in danger. And I remember standing at the gates for about half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour maybe, and just looking up. And that's all I could remember until the shamanic training, where these memories came back, and I could remember this energy where I couldn't move and just looking up at the school gates. And I was always worried what people would think walking by, because they would only see the 3D. They wouldn't see anything else. And I asked the Pleiadians years later in those shamanic experiences why they did that. And they said, word for word, because we kept you out of the school system because you would have been lost to us. So I think, looking back, my whole childhood, it all fits together. Perfect training for where I am now and what I'm doing. And
so that left that depth of darkness, and like, I'm just listening to you go, how you even survived and are alive is just beyond, my capacity to even understand. And I'm sure for many listeners. So do you feel that that was essential, that level of darkness, for you to really own your light and your power and remember and be able to do what you're doing now? Is that how you would see it, even as awful as it was?
absolutely. And that's been a big thing, a big theme. And I think the questions you're asking, and the road your perspective that you're going down with the questions is very intuitive. I think it's highly accurate. I think my childhood was, there's several aspects there, because I believe that we do create our own soul contracts and also realities. So I believe that before I was born, in a previous incarnation, or even in between life and death, at some point in my soul's history, I contracted in for my childhood, this lifetime, for different reasons. Some to do with healing my family dynamics and ancestry, which on a broader scale is, if you go out a bit energetically with that, there's a very Irish energy there that needs to be healed, which I feel is very much is targeted very much by the negative agenda, and not just the Irish, but also other sacred people. So I would have had that in my family. I think in my family there would have been a lot of dark energy, not necessarily consciously, but my family would have been very targeted. I guess what I really mean is, on a higher level, they were very targeted, as were so many of the Irish in the past. I think on a soul level, and this also is can answer some of your question that you were asking me just now about the dark and the light and the experiences at such a young age. it is the dark is the cracks are where the light gets in. So the more trauma, devastation, trauma, there's no other word for it, of whatever form, if we can walk through that and find the light within us, or even outside of us, if we can walk towards the light, whether it's internal or external, and heal some of those things, we are more able to cope better. And then there's just more, and there's layers of it. But it is where the dark is where the cracks and the lights get in. And there was something that came to me the other day. It was a channeled message. The dark exists. You are here to transcend it into the light, which is very simply put. But they were referencing my childhood stuff. But there's every experience I had as a child that was negative, I always had another that was positive. Like, for example, when I was 8, I left my body, and then I had the experience with the Pleiadians, who I always like to keep simple of who they are. So I would always just say they are similar to angels, but not angels. They're light beings from a different place. So I would always have a positive experience, which instilled in me a sense of somehow a sense of assertiveness, a sense of myself, a sense of my own power, even though it was very gentle, or very a small sense of my own power. Yeah.
It's, yeah, when you say, I actually wrote that. I wrote a book after my experience with cancer, and I remember writing the crack is where the light, I think it was the words of Rumi, the crack is where the light gets in. Because it was a different experience and nothing like what you've been through. But the only way I could describe it to people was literally like I was cracked open. I don't have any other words. So I just remember sitting in my car and feeling like I was cracked open, and I'd been, and everything started to change after that. But it wasn't at, I don't know. I don't know if it was. Other things have come up since, but what you're speaking to there, so it's like, are there many, I would describe many souls who have chosen a mission like you to that level of what you've experienced, you know?
I think there's 144,000 souls that are born as starseeds that have chosen difficult missions to be on Earth now for the Ascension process. It's a prime time in our collective consciousness now.
Yes.
We heard the call, or there was a call put out into the universe to keep things simple, and that was answered by many. The universe is teeming with life. There's Lyrans, there's Arcturians, there's Andromedans, there's Pleiadians, there's Syrians. Then that's just a few handful of names, and we've all had past lives somewhere in the universe. We're not all from Earth, and Starseed is just a name used for people that have had past lives in other places. And I believe there's 144 of us that heard the call and we came back to Earth for this.
Only 144,000. Seems like a small few for the planet.
Exactly.
Not very many, is it?
It's not really, when you think of it. When you think how many people are on Earth, it is quite a small percentage.
But when you say 144,000, because I'm meeting more and more people, let's say, as you said, and maybe we'll talk about this in Ascension and how you would describe that for someone who might be, what's Ascension? I've never heard of it. You know, I know there's something going on and the world is crazy. But even this morning, I met a young girl. I was at, just to give you an example, I was at a yoga class, and I actually find now I cannot not. It seems like we're reaching a time where you nearly have to speak your truth. Like you have to be authentic. It's like there is no choice. We're hitting this point. I'm finding it. There's just something not possible not to. And so lots of layers of things are coming off. But this young girl, and I just started talking to her after this yoga class, and next minute we were talking about soul families, and where did she come from? And it was just this moment. And off she went, and I went, and I went, that would never, not, it's happening more frequently, I feel now. So, you know, when you say 144,000, so they seem like you, people, souls who've taken on a really difficult mission, you know, a really, really challenging. But beyond that, there are others, I imagine, who are waking up and have a role in what is happening now. Like, how would you differentiate? And for listeners, how would they identify, am I one of those 144,000, or where am I in this?
There are some very common symptoms. One of them would be a sense of not fitting in, a sense of not belonging, a sense of being different, a sense of standing out, not fitting in from an early age, being bullied because of it. And it's not something that you can really say, oh, well, she's got a scar on her face, or her skin's a different color, or her hair's frizzy, or she's got one blue eye and one green eye. It's more a sense of just your energy being different, something different around about you. The people that stand out in crowds, a sense of wanting to go home and not being sure where that is, a sense of just being a square peg in a round hole, you know, and also a sense of wanting to speak the truth. Those are some of the characteristics.
Mm. Mm.
And also a sense of not understanding what is really going on Earth. Things don't make sense here. This is a planet that has been invaded by negative ET alien races or race at the time of the downfall of Atlantis. But those would be some of the characteristics of starseeds. And not everyone that is a starseed understands that they are a starseed. That is a process of awakening up to your own galactic history and your own soul mission and journey. That's a whole like story within itself of
Mm. So it's designed different time-wise. It feels like, yeah, I think we often hear of the waves. So for different people at different stages, we're not all, there'd be no sort of evolution, I suppose, in this sense. If we were all just ping and we're here going, oh yeah, I remember, I remember. So there's obviously, and it's a deep process because, isn't it? I mean, I'm in it. It started a number of years ago, but it's like it's ever, I feel I've hardly touched, I've hardly really got into it, and then all memories are coming back, and I don't know if they're future or past. I don't know. A lot of people, I suppose it's all now anyways, but it's all in the quantum. But yeah, it is a deep process, isn't it? That
it is a deep process. And I was one of those children that had past life memories as a child that I would tell my mum. For example, when we first went to Dublin, I remembered the road names and what was around the
Mm.
corner and what was up the road, and I was telling her, and I couldn't read, so she knew I wasn't reading the road names, and she knew that I'd never been to Dublin before. So I always kind of, she never knew what to make of me.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think even the drinking and the alcohol is part? I mean, I know there was probably ancestral history and abuse there, but also was there a knowing? Because do you think in your mother, about what you were here for? And
Yes.
maybe was it too
Yeah.
much for her, or she didn't know how to deal with it, do you think? Or
I think that she was part of the MK Ultra. I
oh,
do. And I think that was why she drank. I think she was very targeted herself. I think my family were very targeted by the negative agenda. And I think I was born into that family to help to heal it. I think it's no accident that I was born into an Irish family. And I think that many of the sacred people throughout history have been targeted by negative agendas who have tracked and traced us from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. So we were the the um the the victims of the famine. We were the Native Americans, we were the Aborigines, we were the all the sacred people that have been targeted. It's us. We were those souls again and again and again and again. That is part of the reincarnation process. So it's the
mm.
I'm trying to kind of not.
I know, because I'm just thinking, for again, someone who might be listening and going, what negative agenda? Some will know and go, yeah. And the darker for, can you try and MK Ultra? Yeah, maybe, I know it's difficult. I don't know how that can be simplified or explained
I
in the way
know
that
how to.
people. Okay,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You've
Thanks.
done this
Yeah,
many times.
because I felt that I was going way out there, but
No.
to keep it simple, the way they explained it to me is that, or one of the ways they explained it to me is that every system. So first of all, let's establish that the universe is teeming with life. We would be very silly to believe that life is only on Earth, because it's not. That's not the way of the universe. So the universe is teeming with life, with different alien races or ETs.
Not all, I know, and we've been led, we've sort of, haven't we, to believe they're all bad, through movies and everything.
Yeah,
That word has such a loaded, weaponized word nearly. Oh, ETs and aliens, they're all bad. So it's just other life forms, basically, you're
yeah,
saying, on other, yeah.
yeah. And also there is a crossover there in history where angels were often actually positive ET energies. Um, they came down from above, and they were often shown as having wings. But there is a crossover there between angels and positive ET energies. And I do believe that the most of the angels that we see in our history, whether it be through symbols or images or writings or however they're documented, were actually positive ET energies. So the universe is teeming with life, both positive and negative, and there has been a war between these different races, between light and dark, for since time immemorial, that I know of, since the downfall of Atlantis, when we were invaded on Earth by a negative alien ET race, or fallen angels, if you want to call them that,
Mm.
who wanted to take ownership and control not just Earth, but also humanity. And those two went hand in hand. So that's what they did. We were invaded, which caused the downfall of Atlantis, which was put into place by these negative beings that invaded. And when they did that, they set up systems, they put systems into place. Now, they had a plan in place before they even landed on our planet that was thousands of years in advance. They really took their time in organizing and structuring exactly what they would do in different scenarios, different situations. So, and our DNA was changed at this time by these negative beings. This is not woo-woo stuff. There's the likes of Greg Braden has proven a lot of what we've been saying for so long as channelers, as psychics, as mediums. So Greg Braden has proven that our DNA was changed, was interfered with, and it was not a natural process. And that would have happened at the downfall of Atlantis around that time. So since then, every structure on Earth has been at the highest level, been ruled, been owned by these negative reptilian, if you want to call them that, or alien race, negative agenda, the Illuminati, the Cabal, the elite,
all sorts of names. Yes.
whatever you want, the royal families, whatever you want to call them, have been ruling this planet for far too long, and every system within it. So political, war, big pharma, every system on Earth is run by negative ET energy. And I've been saying that for a long time, and I know David Icke would have said a similar, and does say a similar thing, that we are run by negative alien species. I remember hearing a friend of mine say that once, and I actually laughed, because I was at, I can't get my words out, I'm sorry. I was at the age where I wasn't aware of my Pleiadian connection. I was actually living on Holy Island in Scotland, and I was a volunteer there for maybe 4 years. And but it's only later on that I became more aware. But this specific lifetime that we're living in now, this is huge.
Yeah, maybe talk about how that is sort of really showing up now, because again, and everybody, who's listening will come to this interview wherever they are in their level of awareness, and maybe something will be activated or remembered or not, depending. That is part of each, isn't it, soul's journey, but it feels like it's really now we're at a very pivotal time, aren't we, on the planet. Just to, when you talk about the darker agendas, let's say, and all of that, how would you describe, so people might say, for example, I would find, I suppose for many people 2020 was a key moment wherever you ended up on that spectrum, but I can say for myself, something in me started to go, well, I always felt a bit of what am I doing here anyways on this planet, always, but I was definitely going, this is not right. And there was nothing, no one was saying anything to me. I was in like Manny, we were all dotted around the world going, I know in my heart and soul there's something wrong here. I just know it. Nobody can tell me any different. So it seemed to be a key moment to activate a lot of people. There'll be others who may say, no, this happened. And so it's presenting itself, I suppose. My point is, if you want to call it these darker agendas, and why people might say it's sort of very controlling, where you're seeing control really show up in your life, isn't it? That's where I would have really seen it. Like, how would you say to people it can present itself in normal day-to-day life that you might recognize, if what you're saying, at another level sounds way out there for some people?
I think there are thousands of starseeds, and I think we've all woken up at different times. And I think the negative agenda, when they did that in 2019 or 2020, I think it was perfect, because I think it woke so many people up. My childhood, there was a lot of negative stuff, but every time something negative happened, something positive would happen. And I really saw that kind of mirroring itself in 2019, where they would, negative agenda would do something like with everything that they were doing on a on scale in every country on Earth, and then the people would be waking up and pushing back. They'd be picking up their microphones. They'd be saying, "I do not consent." They'd be showing up online en masse, and I think that was that wave of the likes of us waking up to a new level. So every time the negative agenda does something negative, there's a positive pushback, which is just amazing. And I really see that common theme within my childhood, you know. And I think the negative agenda hadn't realized how much we would push back. And I see them now in a different light. I feel that they have a positive role to play in waking us up to overthrow them. So I think without them, without the negative agenda, we wouldn't be waking up to the level we're doing in this lifetime is epic. This lifetime is epic in the part of Ascension Process.
Can you talk about that now, just where we're at, and its importance and what is actually happening? And yeah, please.
Well, there's several things going on, but we are, to keep it simple, we are evolving into a new human species. We are, and this is a very physiological process. We are literally turning into a more advanced human being. Our skin, our hair, our blood, our teeth, our cells, our DNA is changing. So it's like thank you. So it's like a coil that has been stretched. And the coil is our DNA. And the coil has been stretched and changed and adapted and manipulated by these negative or alien or Illuminati or whatever you want to call them, the negative agenda. They changed our DNA at the time of the downfall of Atlantis in order to control and manipulate. So that coil of DNA that's been stretched to its limit, which is where we are now, in this lifetime, in the in our period of humanity's even timeline or time period now, that coil has been let go of. So we are revolving back to our original blueprint of 13 strands, not 12, and we've even got more than 13 strands. So we are evolving into a new human, into a more crystalline being. We are moving into a higher dimension. We are waking up to the fact that the governments and the controllers and the satanic, sometimes I use the words these days satanic instead of negative or negative alien, because I don't see any difference. So the churches, the Catholic Church, has had huge impact on that. So that is my understanding of it.
Yes. And can you talk about, you mentioned Ireland at the beginning and ancestral, that's come up hugely for me. I'm feeling my ancestors, like it's every day now, different things are happening. What role has Ireland particularly, how I've heard many different descriptions of what Ireland was before, as a sacred place. And I don't know if you've heard of the book Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs. I haven't read it myself, but I know that, it's been mentioned to me numerous times. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of chills. So where is Ireland in all of this? Because we've been under a lot of dark things for the last while, haven't we? A long time.
We have. They shared a download with me years ago of the 13 tribes. I think they left Egypt, 13 tribes. So there would have been an Irish tribe. There would have been they probably weren't called Irish at the time, but there would have been tribes that left Egypt at the downfall of Egypt itself. and spread out across the globe. Some would have gone to Native America, some would have gone to Ireland. These 13 tribes were sacred. And what's been happening is that the negative agenda and the positive agenda, or ET races, have been having a war since the downfall of Atlantis. And they have technology that is, they both use, be it for the negative agenda or the positive agenda. The technology is neutral, depending on what side is using it. But they do have, technology does exist on a higher dimension that they are able to put into our energy fields or our bodies. And it tracks and traces us from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. So us being those beings that would have come from the 13 sacred tribes and spread out across the earth, we've been tracked and traced from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, which is why the sacred people, not just of Ireland, have been targeted, but Native Americans, Aborigine, Maori, the Celtics, the Scottish, the so many group tribes that have been targeted. Not to mention the Africans. But there also, Ireland was part of Atlantis. Atlantis was an era that was in many different places. It wasn't just one place. Atlantis, the word Atlas comes from Atlantis.
Yes.
So, and Ireland was very much part of that. There is very sacred land in Ireland that is undiscovered, that we don't know of. There are pyramids in Ireland. There is a huge connection to Egypt and Ireland. Atlantis was known as the Emerald City, or the Emeralds, and then you've got Ireland being known as the Emerald Island. Then there's also the hybrid Brazil, or there's an island off, a mythological island that's in our history books, that's off the coast of Galway, west of Galway, or west of Mayo in Ireland, where hybrid Brazil, I think it's called, where there was, which was involved in a landing. There was a landing in a forest with UFO craft, and there was a military person that was having this experience of the landing, and he put his hand on the ship, and he was given the coordinates telepathically of hybrid Brazil, I believe it's called, which is an island off the west coast of Ireland, which is reportedly to be part of Atlantis itself. This is in our mythological stories as being a myth, but there actually is an island there that's beneath the sea now. So that's an interesting
And High Brazil, or something, there's some name coming in, not even I don't know why High Brazil is coming to me, and I've heard it or seen it somewhere. I don't know if it was Hybrid Brazil, but yeah, you're saying it's off the west coast of
yes.
Ireland. Do you think that's a big part of your role, why you're here in Ireland? Are starseeds placed around different parts of the world in specific locations?
Yes, we've been deliberately scattered into different places around the earth so that we could connect and reignite energy in those places, but also so that, because we are, we're electrical beings, we conduct electricity. So there's 2 or 3 main reasons there. One is to anchor in energy to different places. And often we move around a lot as well. We don't live anymore in one place for a long time. And we do that to heal the energy of the land. But we also have been spread out into isolated places sometimes to do that, but also in reaching out and connecting so we're connecting, so we're bridging the gap of the negative band waves of energy. So it's I guess a better way to word it would be to diminish the darkness in certain areas, and to collectively shift the darkness away.
Yeah. I get images sometimes, it's like a web, and you know the way you see those flight plans for the world, and there's like cities marked. Um, because often when I sit down here, and I just know nearly who I'm meant to contact. Like it's like, and it feels like it's part of just us finding each other on the grid. Where everybody's doing it in different ways, but that just feels, and very, very, yeah, in very varied places all over the world, that there's something very, yeah, beautiful happening through that. So I don't want to hold you too much longer, Soma, can you just maybe, if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about, if we're in this key moment of our evolution and everything is shifting, and I think, and you talked about the future human, or these abilities coming online, and I think, like what you said, the telepathy, I think more and more people, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling things shifting in my body and my awareness. If you were to look, I don't know how many years ahead it is, 20, 30, 40, how would you see us living? Because you talked about, the abilities that for us will come online. In your mind's eye, how is that looking? How we live together or individually ourselves?
I think our world is changing so dramatically, and and they keep saying that this lifetime is epic. It's off the scale in terms of evolution and consciousness expanding and ascension. This lifetime is a huge evolutionary leap forward. Some of the things they've showed me is and said that sometimes during the weekly channelings I do, they've said a lot that there will be landings in our lifetime. There will be contact in our lifetime that will be mainstream media. So at the time of, I kind of see an image of at the time of my passing, when I do decide to leave this body, we will have established contact, open contacts that will be on the media, on the mainstream news. There will have been undoubtable, unquestionable landings of alien races, positive ones, I believe. Having said that, they've also shown me that there will be fake landings and fake landings. So so at the end of my life, I do see us being more community-based, really living in communities, growing natural, healthy fruit and vegetables and herbs and plants, and seeding everything. And coming back to more of a community, the way the Native Americans would have lived. I think that was a very healthy culture that was very deeply spiritually connected to the earth. And that is also part of the negative agenda, where they have, especially in Ireland, since my granny's day, they've really, we've really gone away from our granny's day, where, being connected to the land, making her own food, her own butter, the animals, the sheep, the chickens, the cows, we sourced everything from the animals, and we don't have the ability to do that now. Something as simple as raising chickens has become regulated to a stupid amount of, degree.
Yeah.
So I do see us going back to a more natural Granny's Day era, where we are coming away from the supermarkets, the big pharma, the government, the rules, the regulations, and standing up and saying, I do not consent, and I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to have to be reliant on supermarkets where I have the fear of them running dry of basic necessities like toilet paper or milk. I want to go over to in this direction and be able to have fresh, healthy produce that is not going to harm me, that is not full of chemicals and toxins and goodness, battery acid or in cookie dough.
Yeah.
So I think we are going back to a more, the earth.
Natural, I suppose, isn't it? And and if you're listening, well, if you're listening, you're listening right now. But from where you were with sort of at a higher level, what's happening? I think it's very interesting because I've done this in my own life. When you start bringing it into your day-to-day life and you start to question. Yeah, there is an awful lot of toxicity, and it's happened to me since I had cancer because of the journey I went on, and then a heightened sensitivity and a cleaning out of my body, which I'm still in the process of doing. And then to question, well, why is all the food in the supermarket full of awful stuff? Why are our vegetables and everything being sprayed? When you even at a very basic level start there, this is not natural. This is not normal. Like how, and we just seem to have accepted this as, I think less people are. But this whole walking into a supermarket, the other day I even looked at what are all these aisles and aisles and aisles of food for? I just kept thinking, as you said, my granny. And my granny did have chickens, and my granny did grow her vegetables, and she did sell her eggs to the nuns so my mother could have piano lessons. Like it was a very simple way. And I feel her around me, and I said it to my mother recently. I said, what is that? It just was like it suddenly landed in me. What are all these aisles in the supermarket? Like, what do we need all this stuff for? And it might sound obvious to some people. It probably, I've noticed this in the last few years, but I think more and more people are going, this is not natural. So why is it happening? And then you start to peel back layers of, well, behind that and behind that. And it does lead you back, whether you like it or not, to something, that is not natural to us happening. And I think, like, for me, I can't say I've been on this journey a bit on my own little rabbit hole journeys for the last number of years. But I think once you start, this is the fortunate or unfortunate thing. Once you start peeling back, wherever you start, it could be food or big pharma or finance or politics, they all start to tie up. And then the question is, do you want to put your head in the sand or do you actually want to start going, no, I'm not doing this anymore? And we're sort of there. It feels like there's a tipping point. Do you feel we've reached a tipping point?
I think so. I think 2019, 2020 was a tipping point. I remember I remember getting very angry at different times during that period when I was in the UK. Well, because I was in the supermarket and they had drawn lines on the floor, or white lines that you could cross or not cross. And the whole thing to me was, it was so ridiculous. There were moments I was very angry at it. And my anger was probably misdirected in moments when I was stood at the supermarket and then I had the cashier, telling me I could stand here, but not there, so, yeah. And the whole thing with food and big pharma and political system, the thing is, all these systems are connected at the highest level. They're not separate systems that have no communication or connection with each other. Hollywood is a prime example. Hollywood and CIA are very deeply, deeply intertwined and connected. And the vast majority of the superstars and stars are, I've started to come to realize lately that a lot of them are on the payroll of the CIA. So it's very connected, dark, and then also there's the Satanic Catholic Church is connected to some Hollywood as well, and very dark. Very, the more you get, it is layers upon layers and layers, and it goes very dark, very deep. Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's opened that box and gone down those rabbit holes has wished at some point that they hadn't done that, because it's never ending and it's all connected. There is a
Mm.
great poster of all the different conspiracy theories it's got thousands of them on it. I don't know if you've seen it.
I think at some point I think I did, isn't it? And it's just showing how they're all connected, basically.
Yeah. And they're all
Yeah.
connected. And um I mean, look at how evident it was that big pharma and political in 2019, look how that was connected for profit.
Mm.
And then look at the food and the Bill Gates and the buying up of the land, and then the mass producing crickets and bugs to put into protein bars, and it's just incredible that
But
the
sorry, yeah, but it nearly seems like if I, not that I bring this up too often with certain people, but if you do, it's almost that it is so clever that it's at such a level that most people go, this is just ridiculous. Why would anyone do this, you know? So it just doesn't, it sort of serves that purpose because I know there's layers and layers. So would you say that there are many people, I've worked in different institutions throughout my life, and I would say that the majority of people in there are very good. They're doing their best by humanity. They're part of this system and may or may not be aware. I would imagine some are and some aren't. So, at a certain level in everything, I suppose, you get to a certain level if you're willing to sort of consciously play your part, is my feeling. Um, moving up the ranks in different places.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, people are just in a lot of positions or working to pay their bills and keep a house over their roof and their
Mm,
families and
mm,
children. So I think the vast majority of people are good, innately good. I think it's only when you get to the very top that the darkness is really exposed.
mm. As we draw to a close, what would you, and in looking at the dark and the light, and as you said, you can go down rabbit holes or not, where would you, for my feeling, and people might have listened to this and maybe new, it may not be new, there may be sort of unsettling things and positive things. My sense for me is focusing on what we want to create and where we are going and putting our energy there. So, as a parting, maybe a few moments that we might end the podcast on, because we came from where you started and how it has led you to such a beautiful place in your life now. And thank you for that. So where would you suggest, or is there a message? I don't know if you want to take a moment to channel a message for us, or however you feel, Soma, that might um, just for everyone listening, wherever you are and what you've heard in this conversation, I hope it maybe lights up something in your awareness, but also is supportive to you um, in your journey and what's next for you. And maybe someone might just bring through some guidance from her guides as to what they might want to share with us today.
We are excited to be here with you. We we are closer to you than you perhaps fully understand, and have witnessed your journey, most especially over the last 5-10 years. So we wanted to just mention that as we blend with your energies more and more. Be the change you want to see in the world. You are most definitely going back to your granny's eras where things were much simpler, easier, in a sense, although often classed as being very hard work. There was nothing else that was known at that time. Things were just the way they were. There were smaller communities. There were animals to feed, to breed, to pluck, to grow your own. There, in this very short, thank you, in the very short space of 2, 3, no more than 3 generations, your world has changed, and it is changing as dramatically now in the next 2, 3 generations in the future. And going back to your granny's era, you are doing a loop within 6 or 7 generations, 7 at the very most, where you are coming full circle and going back to granny's era. And that process has already begun since 2019, where you are seeing the illusion of your planet fall and crumble. And it is not that things have got worse, or things are more evil, or things are more worse than you thought. Things have not got worse, but they are just simply being exposed for how it has been for so long, progressively. And now you are seeing that. You are becoming more and more and more aware. So when you walk into your supermarkets, you are able to see more of what is going, thank you, what is going on behind the curtain, so to speak. You are starting to read the ingredients. You are starting to look at the labels. You are starting to understand that there are these ingredients, poisons, toxins, chemicals, things that are not even food substances in the ingredients, in products. Be the change you want to see. Go. We have been saying for a number of years now, and Soma is quite surprised sometimes that it is already 2025, because it feels like only yesterday was 2019, with all of that crazy energy, where so many of you stood up and said, I do not consent, where so many of you picked up your, thank you, your microphones, your laptops, your phones, you turned on technology and equipment, and you reached out to people halfway across the world, and you gathered and you united. That wave is coming back again. It is time now to, and we've been saying this for some time, since 2019, it is time to, thank you, create new communities. Come together, create communities. Go back to Granny's era, where you had crops, you had cattle, you had cows, you had sheep, you had chicken, you had eggs, you had milk, you had cheese, you had all that you needed. You were, and then but you were sold this false ideal, a false ideal of living in a city and having a job and having a car and having something better than you had. That is a false ideal, because it is not better. When you look at the cities of the likes of China, with such huge high-rise buildings that are hundreds of feet in the air, you begin to realize that that is not better. That is a very good example, that image of a Chinese, or that area, the huge buildings. That is not living, that is existing. Reconnect back to Mother Earth. Reconnect back to yourselves, your ancestors. Reconnect back to the land, be it island, wherever you are. Island is a sacred land. We have in the past we lived on your land. We being the Pleiadians. One of the spaces that we showed this one, Soma, before is Caramore in Sligo. Where we had a very strong population. We've not only lived in Egypt, we built Egypt with your help. We've also done that within Ireland, which we can confirm is part of Atlantis. There are other places, of course, as well, such as Florida. Back to your roots is where you need to be. Where the elders of your community, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, the parents, help to raise your children as a community effort to grow food, to look after the animals, to all of the work to be shared. We will leave you with that for today, and we wish you love and peace. You are us. You are us, and we are you from the future. This has also been proven by science, or certain science that is more advanced, through the likes of Greg Braden and others. So we will leave you there with this today. Question everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that the Pleiadians? Thank you to the Pleiadians. Thank you, Soma. Question everything. Back to our roots. I won't forget, back to our granny's era. Yeah, I could feel that. I'm so glad I've been feeling that even before now. Very grateful to you and for all your time today, Soma. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it? And where will they find you? And I'll put it all in. So for listeners, I'll put it all in the description box of the interview.
It was so lovely to be able to channel. I always love that energy, and
Beautiful.
I never want to come out of it.
Sorry to jump. I probably very brutally
It's
give out.
okay. I have.
Oh, I felt I was there with you. I could just feel it. It beautiful. What a gift.
Yeah.
It's coming for all of us though, isn't it?
It is.
That's what I feel. Yeah.
It is. I often see Starseeds just being at the forefront of even of ascension and evolution and expanded consciousness and where we're going. There's always a first people or first tribe, and I feel that we are that. So, but it's coming for everyone, you know. So people can find me on Substack, Soma ARah, which is my main social media these days. I have all of the usual ones. I also have my website, somaarah.love. But if you want to connect in with me, or you'd like a reading or a channeling, which I do for in person for people, you can check me out on Substack. So it's Soma ARah Substack. because I find that I love Substack. It's
So
so
do I. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's uncensored.
Mm.
Um, so but I'm also on Facebook and all of the others.
Yeah, perfect. I'll put all the links here because I put the podcast on Substack also, and it's a beautiful environment. I'm sort of finding my way around it, but it's another way of building community because you can, even as things you find you like, you can recommend, and then people just start to find each other. It's really organic, I think. There's something, and it's not noisy, and there's not loads like other social media. So again, thank you, Soma. Thank you everyone for listening. So the link.
Just can
Oh
I
yeah.
just I'm sorry,
No,
Celine.
no, no. I wasn't.
Thank you. I just very quickly mentioned that I do have groups that people can come
Oh
and
yes.
join for free. I have where I channel the Pleiadians, and you can come and ask questions. So I have a Saturday 7 p.m. Irish time, and also Sunday 3 p.m. Irish time, and I also offer readings and personal one-to-one Pleiadian trance voice channelings. And I also have a conference coming up in July in this year, 2025, in Florida called Full Disclosure Now Conference with Brian Seng, who's organizing it. And there's myself and many other amazing speakers. And I do have a discount code for people if
Perfect.
they would like to come along. Let me know and I can send you a discount code.
Fantastic. So is that available that I can include it in anything that goes out when I'm sharing the podcast, or would you prefer it to be privately?
No, I will send you the
Okay,
link to
perfect.
share out.
Perfect.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. And that's wonderful. I didn't realize you had those two groups free, so that if people even just want to get a further taste of your work, that's a really nice way to do it. And then if they wish, as you said, they can. So you've lots going on, Soma.
I do. I do. My mum used to say there's no rest for the wicked.
The time is now, a call to arms. So it feels like,
Exactly.
isn't it? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It
And
really is. A call
yeah,
to arms and a call to pick up our microphones and our
yeah,
voices and
yeah,
not consent. That's huge.
yeah.
And it helps other people that are not so um that are more unsure.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it is just doing that because even for me doing this, I was very unsure. I never planned any of this. And now I'm finding, and there's a part of me, I've said it sometimes going, no, don't say that. And then it's suddenly, I think, again, if you're sitting and listening and there's anything, fear, once it's like this muscle, isn't it? You have to start as you start to peel back a lot and heal and clear a lot of your own trauma and wounds. A sort of, well, I feel it, and I'm meeting others. So sort of a fire comes up, and all I can say is once you start to flex that muscle or start to open up the throat, there's a bit of coughing that goes on and spluttering, which I'm known to do a bit on the podcast, but it starts to become clearer and the voice gets stronger. And I think we feel truth, isn't it? We're not told it, we feel it. So that's been the biggest lesson for me to trust and feel in my body. So for anyone listening, really start trusting ourselves because that's how we take this back, isn't it? Take back our power. Um, just really tuning in and trusting ourselves.
Yeah,
And
it is. And for a while there, back in 2019, I think a lot of us were self-censoring, oh, I can't say that, or I'm not going to say that, or we, there was that element as well. And then you're right, and what you're saying, the more it's a muscle.
it is, yeah. And I think the fear and all of the conditioning, programming, all that we've grown up, I've always been afraid to say anything that I thought nearly. So it's been so well done that it's like it's such a huge leap for people. So the more we can encourage each other that it is safe to speak your truth. You're not hurting anyone. I keep coming back to this. If you're speaking from your heart and you're connected there, you won't hurt people. You'll only help, but you have to tune in and do that. It's when you're speaking from a more egoed, place that it's very different. So yeah, thank you, Soma. And this will be an extra long. episode, but well worth it. And very grateful to you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please enjoy and share and check out Soma's work, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care for now. Thank you.